Welcome to Space Startup News Live. I do this live stream every week at the same time. And we have Wayne here already. Super fast. Thank you, Wayne, for joining. I do this live stream every week at the same time, and I go over the videos I posted during the week. So I did a video on Nod Space, then I did one on mining series, and then space news. As usual. So, and we have Liam Donald in the house. Thank you for joining. So you can ask me any questions on space in general. Obviously, I cover space startups, but any space news questions. And I'll go over some of the comments people left on the videos. Quite a few comments this week on the videos, so that's cool. And we'll just get into the first video this week, which was Nod Space. Put myself in the corner. So Nod Space is a Canadian low-cost launch provider. I only found out about them I think last week. I don't even know how I came across them. Actually, it's on X. They posted something on X, I think. So I thought, yeah, I'll cover them. The first Canadian space startup I've covered. For me, anyway, at least, I just know MDA, the Canada arm they use on the International Space Station, but they're working. They have a company that's doing rocket launches. So let's get into them. First of all, they're working on a suborbital vehicle called Tiger, which is very typical of space startups. Before they go into an orbital development program, they start with suborbital. It's cheaper, the learning curve is faster. So they're working on a vehicle called Tiger. It can get to 100 kilometers, I believe, and it's getting close to being developed. Do you have an X account? Would love to follow up. No, I don't have an X account. I mean, I thought about it a few times. It's just the amount of time it would take to post and build up my followers. It's just it's a lot of time, which I'm concentrating on YouTube at the moment, but I do use X quite a lot to find information. I don't have Blue Sky. I'm just, at the moment at least, I'm just concentrating on YouTube, and maybe down the road I can do social media accounts. So Tiger is the suborbital launcher. And so that is due to launch, I think, in August 2025. So quite soon, just a few months from now, it'll be ready for its very first launch. And I think they're only going to fill it 10% fuel the first time, just to test out the engines and so on and launch procedures. But eventually, I think it could reach the Kármán line at 100 kilometers. And then, of course, they'll work on the larger Tundra orbital class rocket, which I believe can carry 500 kilos into low Earth orbit. That's a suborbital vehicle. That's due to launch in, I think, 2 months, if everything goes to plan. And then they have their orbital class vehicle called Tundra, which is 500 kilos to low Earth orbit. Initially, and then they can scale it up apparently to 5 tons to low Earth orbit. So as I say in the video, that 500 kilos is comparable to Rocket Lab, which I think is 600 kilos. So it's in the same ballpark. And Rocket Lab has launched over 60 times. They have a big backlog. They have plenty of customers. So there's obviously a market at that kind of weight. I'm not sure how much money you can make, but we'll see, right? And then they have plans to scale up to Tundra anyway. So yes, I may have a video on this. Let's see if the video plays. Yeah, this is a spaceport. Put myself in the corner. This is called ASX, the Atlantic Spaceport Complex. You can see it right at the edge there. And they will have 2 pads, Pad A and a Pad B. Pad A is just exclusively for Nod Space, and Pad B is for US launch providers. They haven't told us who the launch providers are. So I guess we'll find out in the future. Basically, they will be able to launch military and defense satellites, U.S. satellites, from this because of an agreement between Canada and U.S. For them to safely launch American satellites. So they basically want to do the military stuff, with Golden Dome over the next couple of years. There's a lot of money in that, and a lot of U.S. Launch companies are interested in Golden Dome stuff. So, and Nord Space want to do satellites as well. So they're working on not just the rockets, suborbital, orbital rockets. They're building a spaceport. They're building satellites, and also they want to build up the whole supply chain for Canada. The engines, the Hadfield Mark III engine, which is the first liquid rocket engine made entirely in Canada, 3D printed. So they're building up the whole supply chain, which is amazing for Canada, with a spaceport as well. What I don't mention in the video, but I could have, is that a lot of the spaceports in the US are congested. You got Cape Canaveral, you got Vandenberg. SpaceX is constantly launching from there, and you've got Vulcan Centaur launching and New Glenn. Plus, they have the military launches, so it can get quite congested. So a brand new spaceport with a dedicated pad for Nord Space and a dedicated pad for other launch providers, maybe they can launch more often. So anyway, that's Nord Space. We have some comments on. Let's see if I can bring that up. Nord Space, yeah. What are people saying about it? Yeah. Okay, so actually we got a comment from Nord Space themselves, and they said, "Thank you for covering our story. Canada is powerful. Canada is a powerhouse with immense unrealized potential. With our first principles approach, an all-star team, we look forward to leading Canada's space sector." So yes, Nord Space. And Wingsley said, "Glorious news. Let's hope our Canadian friends continue to push forward and succeed. The free world needs more countries participating in the space race. Just my imagination, but I can't help wondering if there's a way to develop a Loft ID style inflatable heat shield that could deploy to protect the first stage so it could fall into the sea and be recovered. Who knows? Maybe it could use a parachute to fall to Earth, be recovered on land and be reused. Time will tell." If I'm not mistaken, doesn't ULA want to do something very similar? I think ULA has some kind of system for recovering the engines, and it's using that kind of style, inflatable heat shield and then parachutes. So we'll see. And then Wayne says, "Gotta look these folks up. Thanks, man." And Blue Steel 8376 says, "As a Canadian, I'm excited about this company. I hope they succeed." And Moriarty-san says, "As a Toronto-based space geek, I have had the pleasure of meeting the Nord Space team a few times. The passion they have for the mission of bringing sovereign launch access to Canada is infectious. Been following them very closely, and I think they will be first to launch an orbital rocket from Canada. Honestly, they remind me of a modern-day Project Arrow, but in a good way. Aha." So, yep, that's my first Canadian launch provider company, and they seem to be well on the way to launching a rocket. August 2025, hopefully they'll launch their suborbital rocket, and they've already decided on hardware for Tundra, their orbital class rocket. So, good luck with that. Okay, so let's move on to the second. Bring it up. The second video I've done this week, and this is Mining Series. Let's see if I can put myself in the corner here. Yeah, so Mining Series using autonomous robots and a space elevator. Yes, well done, Canada. So keep it up, and yeah, obviously I'll follow Nord Space as they begin launching their rockets, hopefully very soon. Mining Series using autonomous robots and a space elevator. The reason I did this video is I saw a conference paper from a team of people from the University of Colorado, and they basically did some calculations, and they did a paper on how you could mine Ceres. And first of all, why would you want to mine Ceres? And if you look at the image, you can see there's this very bright area. In fact, there's bright areas all over the Ceres, and it's because there's potentially a lot of water there. And this is from the paper, but there could be up to 25%. The entire mass of Ceres could be water, and if that's true, then there's more water on Ceres than there is on Earth. So you can see from the graphic, it's closer to the poles. There's more water at the poles, but still, it's even in the equator, 17% water by mass. So there's huge amounts of water. The only problem is, well, there's various problems, but one of the problems is, first of all, it's in the asteroid belt. So it's 2.8 times the distance from the sun that Earth is. So that gives you problems with communication and with power. Particular solar power is just not very strong that far away from the sun. So that's the first problem. And the other problem is, well, power's a problem as well. And yeah, so anyway, if we go into the paper, they suggested 3 possible ways. So I'll bring myself up here. Like three core components that you need to mine on Ceres. One is you need autonomous smart robots because there's no humans in the loop. It's too far for communication. So the robots have to do all the work, and they have to do it autonomously. So you'd have mining robots, excavator robots, processing robots, transport robots, and so on. And then you have a second thing. You'd have a space elevator that takes the water ice up into orbit, and then from there you can release the payload, and it gets an automatic boost from the space elevator, and then you need the power system to power all of this activity on Ceres. So basically, in the video, I go through the different requirements needed. So first of all, I came up with this. I'll bring this up here. Is for the space elevator, you're going to need a tether that's very strong and 30,000 kilometers. So in the paper they mentioned carbon nanotubes, but I think it's a bit early for that at the moment. So I propose using Xylon, braided Xylon. It's used already in sail ropes, and whenever you need very strong ropes, you can use Xylon. And if you braid multiple strands together, it just becomes more robust. So here I got a defect rate of one critical defect per 100 kilometers. But even in that case, one strand is just going to snap. So you really need 5 to 7. It's fairly balanced, and 10 if you want to be pretty conservative. And if you braid this Xylon together, it's very strong. And even with 10 strands, it's less than 1 ton. So you'd have this on, you'd roll it out from space, from 30,000 kilometers down to the surface, and then you would anchor. And then you would anchor the cable to the surface, and then you can go up and down with a climber. And apparently, if you do it that way, if you go through the paper, basically you can send over 6 tons away from Ceres. So the other thing you need to work on is water-based propulsion system, highly efficient. So they suggest micro-electrothermal thruster is the most efficient propulsion system, and that basically can deliver something like 2 tons to low Earth orbit. But obviously, you can send the payload all over the solar system. So that's their proposal: autonomous robots, space elevator, and a really efficient water-based propulsion system. So yeah, that's what I go through in the video, and I also bring up how you would power the mining operation. The problem is that you can't really use solar because at that distance you get very little power. So you could, for a tiny little mining operation, you could use solar, and also you could use RTGs, radioisotopic thermal generators. Basically, radioactive decay that causes heating, and you convert the heating into electricity. And I mentioned Xenopower is a space startup that's working on these nuclear batteries. iSpace has a partnership with them already, and so basically they're already going to be in space on spacecraft. They're going to be on lunar landers, and they're fine for mining operations and so on. So I suggest RTG for small satellites, small mines. But when you get to larger mines, you really have to switch over to nuclear fission. Surface deployed nuclear fission reactors is the way to go. But that's the case with the moon as well. So I think for a large scale, industrial scale mining, you definitely want to use nuclear reactors. Yeah, this is a conference paper, so it's basically academics. It's a team of people from the University of Colorado. So they just put out the idea of how you would want to mine Ceres, and I think a lot of the things they're suggesting we're going to do anyway on the moon. We're going to use autonomous robots on the moon. Mini nuclear reactors have been developed already for the moon. I mentioned Antares and Lockheed Martin. So we're doing that already. And in the case of Space Tether, we already have the materials needed. It's just Xylon. So a lot of the technology is already under development, funded by the Artemis program, by NASA, by ESA, by JAXA, and also space startups, for instance, RTGs. Xenopower are working on that. And also I mentioned Argo Space is working on the micro electrothermal thrusters, water-based propulsion. So a lot of the tech has been developed. Obviously, you wouldn't go to Ceres first. You go to the moon. You'd mine near Earth asteroids, but later on you could do Ceres because you'd have a lot of technology already. So it just carries on. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting paper, and I thought I'd do a video on mining Ceres, and I'll probably do other videos on mining other places as well. I've got a few ideas, but anyway, that's the mining Ceres video. So there's quite a few comments for this one as well. So let's bring up the comments. Gaius Enceladus says, "This sounds awesome. Let's do it. It's not hard to imagine a small base being set up on the moon, soon followed by one on Mars. The moon is the perfect place to test out everything you need: energy supply, small nuclear generation and solar, building, construction, growing food, and so on. While that tech matures on the moon, a startup can be made on a Mars base and can gradually be built up and made more complete. Robotic mining on Ceres could even be started soon after a moon base is up and running. That base would be the perfect place to launch Ceres-bound robots from, due to the moon's low gravity. In the future, maybe robotic mining of Titan. It has all the methane and ethane that you would ever need. Oh, Europa and Enceladus too. They have water ice in vast quantities, a hugely valuable commodity in space." So yeah, like I was saying, you start on the moon, and maybe you do Mars and near-Earth asteroids, and there's a few companies working on that. And then gradually, as you expand, Ceres would be the obvious choice to explore the asteroid belt. And then you can push on into the outer solar system. You've got Jupiter, you've got Saturn. There's like many, many places, many moons you'd want to explore. But I think Ceres would be the step probably after Mars, or at the same time you do Mars, you'd work on Ceres, because you'd have the tech, you'd have the autonomous robots, you'd have the power source, power systems, you'd have comms. So yeah, I think that's the natural order of progression. And Miles2378 says, would this tether be made on Earth or in LEO, or on Ceres and launched into Ceres orbit? Well, I assume you make it on Earth because we already have the technology to do that. Maybe not 30,000 kilometers, but like we already make Xylon tethers and braided tethers already. So, and it would be less than 1 ton. So it would not be difficult to launch from Earth. And Daniel M5D3H says, not too ambitious, definitely what humanity should be doing. Yeah, I think with all our technology, with all our supercomputers and AI, this is not that ambitious compared to what you could imagine. A lot of the technology is already in development, and yeah, we're not sending humans to Ceres. It's just robots. So I think you could start once you have the technology for autonomous robots and so on. It's plausible. And Lehman is saying, have you looked into Offworld, an automated mining company? Haven't heard from them in a while. That name sounds familiar. I mean, I think I've heard of them, but I don't know anything about them. But obviously, that's definitely something I should look into, because that's something I cover for sure. In the video, I refer to 4Point, which I think is a Polish company, and they do autonomous mining robots on Earth, but also they're looking into the moon as well. So they're definitely looking at something like those kind of mining robots. But yeah, Offworld sounds like something I should look into. Thank you for that, Liam. And then also we have Daniel Grayling saying, fantastic video. Xylem has been used on Martian rovers. Is that not tested for space enough? Yeah, I think the issue is radiation over time, because you're in space. It could degrade the tether, and I don't know. Would have to do the testing on Xylem for use in space. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some work to do on the testing, and but yeah, I think it's an exciting possibility to potentially mine Ceres. I mean, probably 10 years from now or 15. After we've got mining operations on the moon, we're doing them on Mars, we could push on to Ceres. That's the idea anyway. So that's comments for mining Ceres. So then I did, just yesterday, I did space startup news. So I covered a new company called Aspire Space, or at least it's new for me. I've not heard of them before. Then there was the ESA Space Act. There's Latitude Space, French launcher, flying from French Guiana, and then Argo Space, which is relevant to the mining Ceres because they're working on water-based propulsion spacecraft. So I think I have a video somewhere of Aspire. So I can bring this video up. There it is. Put myself in the corner. Basically, this is a company that is now going to be based in the United Arab Emirates, and they're working on a spacecraft. I can't remember now what the payload is, but basically working on a spacecraft, and then they're working on a launcher, and then a spacecraft that can put two tons into low Earth orbit. And they're based in the United Arab Emirates. Yeah, that's very exciting, and we'll see how it goes. So that's the first news segment I did, and then I went on to talk about the EU Space Act, which potentially could add cost to European space startups. So I'm not really a fan of that. Bring myself off here. I'm not really a fan of the Space Act. The idea is good, is to basically launch in a sustainable way, not to create more debris in space, and to have one legal framework. It's just that it's going to add more cost to space startups, European space startups, which are competing with American ones and Asian space startups. So I think for small companies, it's just going to add more costs, which is not great. So that's my opinion on that anyway. So then I looked at Latitude, and I think I have a video for Latitude as well. Bring that up. Yeah, so this is a French launch company. I've done a dedicated video on them already, but they are launching probably next year in 2026. I thought they would launch from Saxford Spaceport. I got that impression, But apparently the very first launch will be from the the ESA spaceport in French Guiana. They're working on their launch complex there at the moment. They're going to spend €8 million on the launch facility, and that whole area can in the ESA spaceport can support 5 commercial launch companies. So I know PLD Space is also launching from there, and maybe in the future there'll be other companies, but definitely Latitude Space is launching from French Guiana. They will also be launching from Saxiford, so potentially on the mission profile. So if you're launching a polar orbit or sun synchronous orbit, Saxiford is better. And if you're launching equatorial mid-inclination or any kind of high-energy mission, you get a boost if you launch near the equator. So, so yeah, they'll have 2 spaceports. PLD Space has multiple spaceports. They have 2 spaceports already. I think they're looking for more. So yeah, well, the European space startups are making some progress on launch sites, which is cool. And yeah, and the final thing I talked about was Argos Space, which is the Argonaut water-based propulsion system, but it's using micro-electrothermal thrusters, which is exactly the type of thruster you want, for instance, for mining Ceres. That's the tie-in with the previous video, is that it's using the same propulsion system that's highly efficient and is great for transporting stuff around the solar system. You can see in the image that the water tanks are at the back, and basically it uses microwave power to generate steam and plasma and expel it at the back of the thruster. And it's very efficient. It's over 400 ISP at the moment, but potentially it can go to 700 or even 800 ISP. So it's a very efficient way of moving stuff around the solar system. And water is abundant throughout the inner solar system and probably the outer solar system as well. So water, I think, is the way we move around the solar system. So it's great to see Argos Space on this working on the spacecraft. And it's launching on Transporter 16 on a SpaceX Falcon 9 in February 2026. So beginning of next year. So anyway, those are the videos I did this week. In terms of other space news this week, obviously Axiom 4 was delayed for a week or so, but now it's launched and docked with the ISS. So you've got like 3 paying customers, and you've got Peggy Whitson there as commander. NASA requires there be an experienced ex-NASA or ex-ESA commander, and then you've got this Polish astronaut, you've got Indian astronaut, and then I think it's a Hungarian astronaut. So they're on the ISS for 7 or 8 days, lots and lots of experiments. It's like 60 experiments, so they'll be very, very busy, and then they'll come back. So that's a private astronaut mission, as NASA calls it. And then we've got the very first payload for Blue Ghost Mission 2. Blue Ghost was a very successful lunar landing mission by Firefly. They're contracted for Blue Ghost 2, and probably a 3 and a 4. So this is the very first payload, which is called Spider. I can't remember what the acronym stands for. Basically, it uses legs to move around on the moon rather than wheels. And yeah, it's just been delivered to Firefly for integration. So I think I mentioned Spider before to do with lunar lava tubes, basically to explore difficult areas like craters. Like a spider with legs would be better than wheels. So yeah, that's very interesting to see that launch on Blue Ghost Mission 2, which I'm not sure when that's launching. I guess it's next year sometime. I then also mentioned, okay, the exploration company declares Mission Possible a partial success. So this launched on the previous Transporter mission, I think Transporter 14. It was attached to the top of the upper stage. And then when the upper stage was deorbited, once the deorbit burn was finished, it was separated and attempted to land. It's got a heat shield. So apparently it managed to get through the atmosphere and so on, and was communicating with the ground crew, but they lost communication about a couple of minutes before it splashed down. So it's kind of lost. But the payloads were activated. There was communication. It apparently got through most of the atmosphere, and then something went wrong. So partial success. So the exploration company has to decide, is it going to go directly onto its larger, full-scale, 4-meter diameter spacecraft, or is it going to do the subscale demonstrator again? So it'll have to decide what to do. But it does have a lot of money. It's well funded. It's got hundreds of millions of euros in funding. Probably one of the top European funded space startups. So we'll see what happens with the exploration company. And then also Astrobotic and Wybotic have qualified the first wireless charging system for lunar missions, enabling dust-resistant, connector-free power transfer on the moon. So basically, you can have wireless power charging on the moon. So the idea is a rover backs up near the lander and then can just be wirelessly charged using the lunar lander's bigger solar panels, and then it can go off and do another mission and then come back and get charged again. So that's obviously cool. So that's great to see. So that's the space news this week, and I do this every week. So please join next week. And I just go through the comments people left on the videos and answer any chat messages. You did a video on Blue Origin's lander recently. Did you see they just shipped a lander? Thoughts on that? Will they beat SpaceX? Yeah, I did a video on the Mark 1 and Mark 2 lunar landers. So Mark 1 is just robotic lander, but 3 tons, so it's quite big. And then Mark 2 is obviously crewed. You can send 4 crew members to the lunar surface. So that's Mark 1 and Mark 2. Did you see they shipped? No, I didn't see they shipped a lander. I know they're working on the hardware. I think Mark 1 is supposed to launch before the end of this year, December, I'm hearing. So hopefully they can manage to launch at the end of this year, which is kind of surprising. But let's hope that works, because it's a big lunar lander. 3 tons of payload to the surface would be fantastic. Yeah, so good luck to Blue Origin, and will they beat SpaceX? Landing on the moon, well, with Mark 1, I think so. Mark 2, I don't know. I don't know what's happening, with SpaceX on Starship and the Mark 2. So I don't know. I have no idea who's going to win that race. I guess we'll find out. So in terms of preview of what I'm doing, I've got quite a few ideas for the next couple of weeks. I think I'm busy the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to cover UK startup that's working on space-based solar power, hundreds of megawatts, and then eventually gigawatts of beam power down to Earth. I'm going to cover that next week, and also another French launch provider that I've not covered yet, because I want to be quite comprehensive on these startups, the launch providers. So there's one that I haven't covered that I will cover, and then I have some other ideas for later weeks. But if you think there's a company I should be covering that I'm not covering, please let me know. And where do you get all your news? How do you gather all this information? So I use social media platforms, X. I look at websites, and also I seem to find papers from like science news. Sometimes they cover space, and then they'll link to a conference paper or something. So then I get the actual the PDF, which should be quite long. Other people do space videos and they put sources in there, and I look at the sources. So there's various places, even like, for instance, like a transporter mission, there could be lots of different satellites. And so you see all the different companies, and you think, oh, I've not covered that company, I should cover them. So there's lots of different ways. There's other ways I could do. I could look at who's leasing all the launch sites at Cape Canaveral, for instance. I thought about doing it that way. You could go through the investors and see some space-based investors, like what companies are they invested in. There's quite a few different ways of finding these space companies. Would love for you to do a CLPS video, look at the outcome of each of the companies that won awards. Commercial lunar payload services. Yeah, like kind of looking at aggregating them, going through them all and seeing what worked and what didn't. And of course, there's 2.0 coming along, hopefully. And there's also now the commercial Mars payload service. That would be awesome as well. There's $1 billion for Mars as well. So yeah, there's like a million ideas. Yeah, but anyway, thank you for watching this live stream, and I do it every time, same time each week. So see you next week.